Hello everyone. My name is Freddy Lecure. I'm based in Montreal. I'm leading the AI team of Thales in North America, and I'm going to present some of the work that my teams have been working on, and particularly on the role of knowledge graphs in explainable machine learning. So thank you and welcome to the sessions. So first, I'll give you a bit of motivations in terms of and applying machine learning in critical applications and critical systems. So what you need to keep in mind is that machine learning deployed on critical systems, it may have a dramatic impact, and it's very complex, and it's think about systems of systems. So for instance, if you look at the picture here, you have a picture of a submarines, and you have experts that try to remove underwater mines from world war, it's a very dedicated and very dedicated actions that they need to take. And with the upcoming wave of machine learning techniques and models for detecting objects and for identifying particular piece of scenes, there are models that can be well fine-tuned and applied and used for detecting those warfare mines, and also to remove them. And as you see, there's a bunch of different people and experts that really looking at the pictures and the different signals that they get from different sonars and different information from the submarine. But in the end, they are the mains that making the final decision of is it a mines or not, and are we going ahead and trying to remove it? And they use and they apply models. But if you think about uh, a model that don't provide rationale on why this particular object is a mine, or maybe it's the shadow of another object, or maybe that's a completely different object. So it's very difficult if they don't have any rationale for making the right decisions. Then they couldn't move forward with the proper decision. So it's very important for them to have a model that do predictions and say, oh, we detected an object and that's of particular class, and here it's a mines. And they also provide explanations. And then explanation, you have many different techniques that can be used. If it's very visual, you have science map techniques, or some use example-based approaches or prototype-based. So you may have many different techniques, but they are very important for those experts to look at, and then to well, basically reinforce the judgment on the classification task. If you think about the trains, it's another system that could operate with machine learning, for instance, for detecting obstacles on a rail track. And they are very complex systems that require and may use radars and lidars and many other stream of sensors and capabilities. And in the end, if we plug a machine learning models that make a decisions by relying on all of the different level of decisions and output that they get, it's very important that we get a rational, or the system get a rational on which decision to make, if they need to brake, if they can keep going on, if the obstacle might not have an impact on the train and the trajectory, then it's fine, and you can go ahead. But in most of the case, if you deploy in critical systems, if the system make the wrong decision, it's not like in business, in customer based applications where you have a wrong movie recommendation, or you have a wrong friend tagged on your social media feeds. Here it's much more impactful, or from a safety perspective, but also from a human and functional perspective. And the same if you start equipping any kind of planes or drones, or the same family, then if those systems operate in a semi-automated way, and they make decisions about landing or about rescuing, um, or safety for safety missions, they need to have rationale on why they should make a particular decisions of landing in an area, and all of this information is crucial for the pilot for make the final decisions. So if you think about those critical systems, the system that could rely on machine learning models because they operate, and those systems rely on large amount of data, and there's a lot we can automate, that's for sure. but then you still have the question on, well, how do I trust the systems, and how I can rely on the proper decisions. And here and in Thales, we really in this particular topic. So we will try to address the problem of safety and trust and explanation, and even further up to certifications of machine learning systems that could be deployed in critical systems and critical applications. And for this, we use part, and we use knowledge graph related techniques and underlying knowledge for validating any outcome that we get. So, and I'll explain you later on. But before moving to this topic, I just want to just well, step back a bit and show that there are many machine learning models that have been trained and you can use and you can fine tune. It could be in vision, it could be on natural language processing, or other stream of data that you can have access to. But the core questions keep remaining is on the trustability of the systems. And then you have the underlying questions about, well, is the model providing valid result? Is it privacy preserving? Is it responsible? And also what's the rationale of having a particular decision. And this is what we really care about. We care about all of those. We do study and we do work on those particular dimensions, and we have clients that we try to help for solving their challenges. But here I'm focusing mainly on the explainable machine learning dimensions and using graphs. And where I want to make some emphasis is, well, if we do assume that the context is context where we do have access to large amount of data collected from LiDARs or coming from radars or sonars, they're coming in large proportions, large amount of data. And you can use it for doing segmentation, subject detections, and the raw input data is coming raw with no really any annotations or deep annotations. It's kind of pixel-like. But if you think about semantic segmentation task, then you can imagine that the input that you have, rather than having raw pixels, you have much proper annotations. And it's not a label anymore about, oh, this is a part of a train, but this part of a train is connected to the train, and the train is a transportation mean. So if you think about those relationships, that you have a connections and you have a semantic connection between the train itself and the parts here which are detected. And the why we should use it is because it's embedding some semantic representations and connections that you can maybe rely on, and maybe we're only relying on raw features with no causations or with no relationship at all, might be difficult for the machine to find patterns. And here what we try to say, and what I'm trying to say is, if you use semantic relationship in a graph sense or using common sense knowledge, maybe you start connecting and you grouping well, common sense information that could be used and could be reconsidered by the machine learning systems. Another example, if you do augment machine learning, not only the input, but you also augment the model itself. And the augmentation of the model might be the different nodes inside, and then extending each and every part of, if it's a tree or decision tree, which part you might be used for labeling with concepts in a graph. Another concept is if you have a neural network here that you see on the left-hand side, and you try to put annotations on the different layers in the different neurons, and you have very fantastic work from MIT, from Stanford, from OpenAI, and particularly the latest work on microscope, where they really try to dissect the neural network and they capture the label associated to a neuron, and they try to weight and define what might be a semantic representation. And here they work by semantic representation. They really mean we do have the label of all the images that we process, and we try to put a weight on this label for each neurons. And in the end, some neurons might excite or might be activated by using some particular part of the images. And you have already some work on these dimensions, but that's something I wanted to mention, because you can go further and use a graph-based representation rather than only using the raw labels, which in the end it's very simple taxonomy based if it's used on or based on WordNet. And here it's the work from Stanford and MIT, where they try not only to annotate a neuron with only one label, but they try to annotate with compositions of concepts. And compositions is conjunctions, disjunctions, negations, and they do the same work as the network dissection work from MIT, but instead of only considering one concept, they consider compositions. And they basically, while putting a composition of potential concept, and they check how neurons are activated, and they try to give a semantic, well, a label representations, a composition of label representations. And they're very interesting work along those lines. And again, you can, as you could augment input and inside of the layer of the neural network, you can also expand the output. So instead of having raw labels with no connections, what if you have connections in the first place, and maybe if you have 1,000 classes to predict, maybe some classes are so close in your concept graph or in your common sense knowledge that maybe you can group them and abstract them by a concept, and maybe that makes the result of your classification even better. Of course, you will use the number of classes, and you will make assumptions that maybe two particular kind of dogs, they are the same dog and they classify as dog. I mean, it's okay if you consider 1,000 of classes where you have 1,000 of different classes and only one or two or three classes of dogs, and you group them together. You will lose in terms of precision of the exact class, but at least you may get a better overall precision in inter-classes predictions. And the same if you do annotation of images, and if you have much more fine-grained representation of the different labels, rather than only using one term and one label, if they're connected as concepts in a graph, you can add and replace one concept by some relation or related concepts. So trains is composed of multi-parts, and maybe you can give more details about those parts, how they colored, what are the pictures, and what are the different images associated to. And we do have some work on how we can explain transfer learning with appropriate knowledge representation. So there are more and more work that try to really combine machine learning and knowledge graph. So the work before is much more at the label representation using WordNet as the best in terms of semantic representation, but you can go further and use other kind of much more structured graph representation. So let me give you an example. So if you analyze the state-of-the-art machine learning applied to critical systems, that's a case where you have a train and you have an obstacle on the rail track. If you do apply state-of-the-art neural net architecture and models here, here it's on a VGG16 a model, not fine-tuned. This is the prediction that you get. And actually, you do have boulders, which is here. So you have the rocks and the obstacle, which is on the rail track. But as you see, this is the score that you get for this particular object, and it's not detected to be an object in the picture because the threshold is not reached. So basically, the object detections, they say, okay, I only capture lumber mills. And what we wanted to do is say, well, actually, based on the context and based on what we see around, we should be considering this to be captured and to be captured as an object captured in the neural network. And if you apply explainable AI techniques, this is what you get. I mean, there's only one object detected. You get the Salency map-based representation. You can use GradCam or different Salency-based techniques, and you get different representations. But actually, that's not any use because you don't get the object detected first, and second, the explanation is not relevant because it's an explanation related to something else. So let's stay back. If you look at lumber mill, you look at DBpedia, you just look at merge manually, and you get description and say a sawmill and lumber mill is a facility where logs are cut into lumbers. And if you look at the pictures, the explanation part of the Salency map part is focusing on the lumber. So you might think that this is exactly what it detects, and but actually the system doesn't do any such thing because it doesn't have access to DBpedia. It just uses the labels and just focuses its attention on what might be this object representing for based on past examples. So what really is missing is the context. So if you want to detect these to be boulders and railway, we will have information about the tunnel, about other rocks behind the scene, and the fact that there's no lumber mill or there's no such thing here. So, and all of this is based on external source of information. So, and if you use well, state-of-the-art machine learning models of VG16s, there is no way it's going to capture it because these informations are very dense, and common sense information is not used. So what we consider and we want to use is really use these extra informations and try to detect those particular information. So we want to move from the left-hand side, where you see lumber mill, only the object detected, and you want to detect boulders and railway with a much higher confidence score. So we designed this XAI Thales platform, which provide higher accuracy on objects which are detected initially, but doesn't reach the thresholds. And the goal is really you use your existing models and your existing architectures. You don't need to train it. You need to retune it at all. You just use an extra layers of semantic enrichment of your data just to capture the context and to boost scores. And the main idea is capturing all the different objects, even if they have a low score, and then you look up and basically doing co-occurrence in the DBpedia page that refer to those informations. And if you see that indeed railways and tunnels and trains, they do appear all together a lot, and that means they close in a kind of a graph domains sense. That means that they have strong connections. And if they do appear in the pictures, and if they do appear as a strong co-occurrence in the DBpedia pages, that's most likely, well, what you see in the picture, you should put the score higher. And this is what we define. Is we define a new architecture, which is basically using RCNN for the object detections, and we have the graph dimensions. We capture the graph representations, and we try to capture and detect if terms that you see from the object detected, if there are any connections in the graph, in the initial graphs. And what's good about that is that you can use any model out of the shelf. The only thing that you need is you need to get a semantic link between the object that you detect, or that the label that you use in your initial models, and the semantic representation in your graph. So that means if you are in a completely different domains and you don't have such a graph, which is available in ConceptNet or other knowledge graph, then you can use and you can build your own knowledge graph, which connects the data that you might have. And if you do operate in a particular industry, you necessarily and you do have data capturing relationship between different entities, and then you can leverage this inside knowledge, or you can use knowledge expertise for building this graph. But in most of the case, even if you start from a very raw versions, if you use ConceptNet or if you use Wikidata-based knowledge graph, that's where you start, and then you can see if there's something missing, and then you fine-tune the graph rather than fine-tuning the model. The model is doing whatever it can do. You can still tweak it and fine-tuning it, but again, well, machine learning is working as far as the data is well labeled and well defined. So our claim is rather than changing and tuning and on the model part, you can do it on the data and the knowledge graph dimensions. And the knowledge graph is these layers that's missing in the machine learning domains. So that's the main rationale behind using knowledge graphing over here. Okay, so I have 1 more minute to go. So I want just to say a few words in terms of ecosystems. In Canada, where I'm based, there's a consortium called DEAL on Dependable Expandable Learning project, which is running right now till 2024. It's a joint effort between France and Canada. So there's also a French side of the project. And we do study certification, explanation, interpretation in machine learning subjects. So if you're interested, there's a lot of work ongoing now on those particular topics. AI4U is another proposal that's currently ongoing in Europe, and that's also touching on XAI domain. And finally, what else I want to add is that well, human in the loop is very important for doing explanation in critical systems, and explanation is critical if you want to deploy AI in critical applications. And knowledge graph have this ability um, to help finding the right reasons for model to work. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed the presentations, and I'm done. Thank you very much.